brother.
What is up? Welcome to a new season. We made it. We made it through a boring summer, but we are here. Season 2 of Rockets Talk, and we got our Houston Rockets about to embark on another season. I got my boy Roosh, and bro, we are here. And what's the word, man? What are we feeling like so far?
Honestly, it's weird, man. I can't believe we're here. I can't believe it's 2024. And we have now gone through, 4.5 plus years of Harden being gone and the rebuild and 3-4 drafts and like all of that. You know what I mean? It almost doesn't feel real. I know you don't watch baseball, but I am very sad that the Astros lost. So I'm trying to like let them go for now because my heart's a little bit broken. But now it's time for the Rockets to kind of take the baton. You know the meme, right? Like the Ninja Turtles meme where Splinter is like, raising the little turtles and then the turtles get big and they like carry Splinter. So that's kind of like the Astros passing it to the Rockets,
Yeah, no, I'm with that. And thank God I don't watch baseball because I couldn't be, being a Houston sports fan is already hard enough. It seems like we are just the quintessential heartbreak city for sports. In the past few, Astros delivered. I'll give them that. But
I will say this. I feel bad for you because it was the time. If ever there was a time to get in on baseball, it was
that. Was it. Like, I missed it.
If ever there was a team in Houston sports history that said, hey, we're not the typical Houston heartbreak team, it was those guys. And this year might have been the end of it, but we'll see.
I'm just unlucky like that. Anytime I invest in something, it seems like it hurts me. I was on the penny stocks craze a few years ago. Lost a lot of money doing that. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe I should stop being a Rockets fan. But coming into this year, the training camp videos have been coming out. I don't get too hype about training camp videos, but I'm not gonna lie. It just seems for me. I don't know what you think about this. That the guys, because of kind of last year being a new thing, there was a lot of hesitancy in some of the approach to starting training camp that isn't there this year. It seems like they're full tilt, full go, off rip, just kind of building on what they did last year. Is that something that you've seen?
Yeah. And also the new practice facility, I think kind of gives it like a new feel too. They would always have to like drive out to like Lake Charles or Louisiana somewhere. And like now they do it at home, state of the art, new facility, which I think is a huge competitive advantage, by the way. The Rockets' previous practice setup was honestly kind of embarrassing. Like it was like a tiny court, just not what you'd expect for an NBA team. So, but yeah, I mean, you watch the clips, like they just look, I mean, I just get this feeling, and we could talk about it, but I just get this feeling that like it's time. They're ready, like I can't quite put my finger on why that is. Maybe it's just the extra years of maturity now and them getting like, comfortable in their own skin in the NBA, but they just look comfortable. They look like they're ready.
No, I mean, that's definitely. And I think one thing I haven't even touched on the training facility, huge, impactful change for them. I think it is going to have like, I heard some of the media day stuff with some of the players talking about it. I know Tate talked about it. They talking about Tate lives there basically. If you play sports and anything that makes you like watch film more, anything that makes you do extra reps, work out a little bit harder, in aggregate over time, it does make a difference. And even for Coach Udoka, he was saying that they have the extra courts allow them to run more efficient practices because they can, and we've seen some of the videos, they'll have 4 different training sessions going on with 4 different groups, whereas in the past, it might have been 2 groups being able to do it. So that's huge to me for like a coaching staff to be able to get through stuff faster and teach guys more one-on-one time and have more time to practice. So to me, that's going to be a big deal for them going into this year. But
Bro, I might be wrong about this, but I don't even think that their previous practice facility had a full court. Like, I don't think it was a
oh no,
legitimate NBA full court.
that's
I
crazy
think it.
if true.
I'm not 100% about that, but when you look at it, and you could see some of it or some of one of the courts from like the street. At least you used to be able to. I haven't been there in a minute, but it's like the walls are, like in an LA Fitness, like those walls are real close. It like had that kind of something. It just felt like that, and maybe one of the media members can clear that up. But yeah. So and also Reed Shepherd. There was a big thing about him using like some type of program or
I think it's called Noah,
statistical
something like that.
yes, yeah, statistical tracking like program or whatever at Kentucky, right? He would use data on his shot, and I think they have that integrated at the practice facility. And that's just one example of like, man, all these gadgets, if you get any type of interest or curiosity, and if you got the types of players who are obsessive and obsessed with like improving and all that kind of stuff, that new practice facility is the kind of thing that can like really be a pathway to just this whole new world of improvement. So I'm excited for them that they have that.
Now, shout out to him for even explaining that. I mean, that just kind of gives you some insight about how he is in the details of the game, because I sure as hell didn't know about the shot arc, degree level, all that stuff. Not that I'm sure a lot of guys in the NBA don't even care about that stuff, but you could tell that Reed is like one of those like basketball nuts. I think it shows why when you see him play, he has such a good feel for the game. Like you got to be on that level, so which is promising. So far, what have you like? The Rockets have been doing a great job of releasing like little snippets and clips from their practices, and a shout out to the Rockets media folks that are recording some of the sessions to see us. What is something that you can say that you've seen just from? I know it's really really micro analysis right now, but as far as just basketball wise, is there any difference you see in movement or in just the play sets or anything that you're seeing from them at practice?
So yeah, full disclaimer. It's just training camp, right? I'm with
Right.
you. I'm like you. I don't watch the training camp videos anymore and like, oh my God, overanalyze. But
Yeah.
but the first thing that jumped out was Reed Shepherd. Like, that clip where he's all over the place. You see how quick his hands are. You can see him dig down from the 3-point line and use his quickness with his hands and his feet to try to disrupt the ball handler and then get back to his guy on the perimeter. You see him poke the ball out from behind. On Aaron Holiday. You saw him swat Aaron Holiday. You saw that play where Fred VanVleet drove in, jumped, whipped a pass out to Reed at the 3. Defender tries to close out. He pump fakes, one dribble, midi, pull up. Like, that's something the Rockets have not had. They have not had that kind of guard with athleticism like he has with the shooting precision from both the mid-range and the 3-point level that he has. So when I see that, I'm just like, whoa. It gets me excited. The other thing that really jumped out was there was one clip of Şengün guarding Jalen on the drive. Jalen goes baseline. Jalen snatches it back. Şengün gets back, recovers on defense, and then blocks Jalen stepping back from a mid-range shot. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. It's just one possession. Jalen should not have stepped back. By the way, he had Şengün beat if he just would have pulled, but he stepped back, let Şengün recover. So, but those are two things. And then I saw one today where Şengün's posting up and Cam Whitmore cuts to the middle. Şengün dumps it off. Cam jumps up and like, oh, my shoulder popped out. Cam.
That's how you know you're getting old. You can't even reenact a real dunk without getting an injury, bro. That's crazy.
Seriously. Cam does like a reverse, dunk, but it's just emphasis on the fact that like, and we could talk about the schematics and all this, but Şengün draws attention. He lulls you to sleep. And if you cut, good things happen, even if he can't shoot, right? Like the ball's in his hand. So he's drawing extra attention. People are like turning around. And like there was a clip today, totally different game. The Nuggets Celtics preseason game. You probably saw Russell Westbrook. Jokic goes baseline, passes it out to Westbrook, elbow 3. Westbrook makes the 3, which is hilarious because if you watch the clip, every defender on Boston faces Jokic at the baseline. So their back is to Russ, right? Yeah. The middle is wide open. If he just cuts down the middle, it's a dump off and a dunk. Of course, Russ spots up for three, but same idea, right? And you see Cam Whitmore hit the middle and catch and dunk. So, we're just I'm just getting the juices flowing back into like what this team's going to look like. What about you? What'd you see?
Yeah, I see a lot of energy. I think that one thing that we had issue with was the lack of movement and cutting with whoever the interior player was, whether it was Jabari or Shangoon or whenever one of the guards get a paint touch. So I'm seeing like now one of the plays Reed scored on is I don't know, I think it might have been Jabari. Somebody got into the paint and just gave him a little handoff and set a natural screen for him to come off and just shoot. I think that with the cutting and the movement, I think that really unlocks a new level. And kind of putting together all the stuff Coach Udoka has been talking about, it's the pace, the pace, the pace for them. And I think that seeing that is an emphasis that they're focusing on. I love that Shangoon played blocking Jalen, super impressive because, Jalen has an elite space creation when he is making those movements and stuff like that. I think physically the team just looks they just look better. Like everybody looks cut in shape. Udoka spoke about that, saying that guys, they had a great summer. A lot of their players are in shape. Guys that need to get bigger, got bigger. Guys that need to trim up, got trimmer. You see the vets, everybody's just coming in. And I think that seeing all of that kind of work together, them hitting the ground running is going to be really, really important. But overall, I mean, it's been great. And I know they said they're focusing on defense to start. You've seen some of the drills they're doing. I'm curious. I don't know who reported this, bro. I want to get your thoughts on this. They said that I don't know. I whoever it was, shout out to you, but that they're just from watching the scrimmages, they have Alp really emphasizing showing on the pick and roll coverage rather than just dropping, or even they started off playing him in real shallow drop, but now like the drills were like get up front, like you're gonna show, either you're gonna switch out or you're gonna show and retreat. And he's been looking good. I know it's just on us, but the foot speed and everything looks real good. Have you seen anything from that?
So I haven't seen anything to like a specific play to pull, but that's what I've been wanting them to do with him since day one. I hate drop coverage. I guess it worked for the Bucks. They had Brook Lopez, they had Giannis. We're not built like that. We don't have that kind of size and length. And I'd have to go back and like rewatch those Bucks to see exactly what they did to make that work. But I hate drop coverage. It feels like anytime we play drop coverage, we get beat by it, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you try to run a zone with a bunch of small guys. Like you have to have like length to run a zone, for example, right? So have him show. In the past, the issue was, I think you pointed this out a lot, that Jalen is on the wing and then Jabari is down low. So the coverage on the backside when you press up and have LP show is not great, right? However, Amin Thompson's back, Tari Eason's back, Steven Adams. By the way, that's another thing I saw in the videos is like the presence of Steven Adams seems to be a big deal. I think I'm excited about him being on the team, both for what he can do on the court and just to like have that kind of vet. When we talk vets, in the past we used to talk like, oh, we have Jayshawn Tate and I don't even remember who the vet. Eric Gordon. Shout out to Eric Gordon. I love Eric Gordon. Shout out, right? But Steven Adams is like that. I mean, that's a quality vet. He's vocal. There's culture there. He talks. He jokes. He's commanding. Like I don't think people understand how much a commanding presence matters on a sports team in a locker room, right? He's a big dude. He can pick you up and throw you, and it sounds simplistic and stupid, but that's important because people listen to that, and that's a big part of the reason I think Ime Udoka has been successful. But yeah, I mean, they got to show, right? Like when they had success early in the season, it's because they had Shangoon pressing up, and the refs were not like they were letting the Rockets play. Later in the season, we weren't getting that type of referee leniency. We were getting more of a whistle, so we had to kind of adjust some things. Alp got hurt, guys got injured. It stopped working as well, even though they still finished top 10. But yeah, I mean, look, if the Rockets want to be the team that they want to be, and if Alperen Sengun wants to play 30, 35 minutes a game, that's how they got to defend if he's going to be the big. We could talk about this. We don't have to go in depth yet, but I say if he's going to be the big because Udoka made a comment that I think made it pretty clear that they're not going double big. But I don't know what you think.
I mean, he said they've tried it, but it's contingent on one of the bigs being a spacers, right?
Yeah.
He said
it's contingent on having a shooting big and then it was Jackson that asked him the question, and
A
then Jackson followed.
great follow up question
Excellent
there
question.
by Jackson. I told him he is in his prime right now. The way he's asking these
You called him
questions,
Walter Cronkite, if
Walter
I
Cronkite.
saw that correctly. And
Yeah,
then he followed up and said, basically asked him like, well, it can Şengün shoot? What do you think about it? And Udoka's answer was pretty much that he has the touch and the ability, but it's a mindset thing. And he
right.
touched on how Alp was like at times pump faking and no one was respecting the pump fake, for example. So you really saw directly into what Udoka thinks about that. So
yeah, and I think that eventually, as his career goes on, I'm talking about Alp, he is going to be able to shoot. I'm going to bet my house that by the time he's in his mid 20s, he'll be a league average 3-point shooter, firm, and possibly elite from certain spots on the court. Maybe the corners or somewhere shooting threes. I've seen some of the practice footage. They have him kind of in the corner. I also see them pre-switching a lot when he's off ball to try to take him out the action. But back to the Steven Adams thing. Yeah, I mean, the rebounding drills with Jabari Smith Jr. in the past, who would that be? Boban? Like, so, you know what I mean? David Nawaba, you know what I mean? No, shout out to those guys, but the quality of players matters. And Steven Adams is a damn good player. Like,
oh yeah,
if he wasn't injured, he'd be starting on somebody's NBA team right now as like a lock. So for us to get him off an injury, even though there is high risk, high reward with a player like him coming off of devastating multiple injuries for him in his career, it is still the just for a young team. I think he's the perfect type of players that you want around. Just another piece to add to the culture. But as far as like with the development of Şengün and his 3-point shot, I think that is a necessary tool he's going to have. But I'm more curious to see him spacing inside the arc right now. Because to me, one of the issues that the Rockets had with the last season on offense was the preloading of the defense on him going downhill. We know, if you follow this channel, we've talked about it multiple times. Going downhill with a full head of steam is like 4 players in the NBA that are better than Alperen Şengün at the big position. Most of them are MVP level players. Like I think 3. It's like Giannis, Jokic, and like Embiid or something like that. Some weird like them 3. So he is devastating.
You're talking statistically?
Yes, like per points per possession, efficiency, all that. When he is attacked, like on drives, one of the best big men in the NBA, like bar none. Okay. The problem is that for him it's even though he can do that, it's really hard to score like that on a night-to-night basis all the time. And he would, the defense is sold out to stop that, as we've discussed multiple times. Fred VanVleet is limited in his pick and roll coverage. So him pick and roll offensive play style usage, him and Jalen working that 2-man game, teams are going to sell out. They're going to sell out to stop. They're going to dare Jalen to shoot, and they're going to dare Şengün to be able to do something on the outside or just stop his momentum and try to post up.
You know who could solve that riddle?
Who's that?
Potentially Reed Shepherd.
Of course.
That pull-up midi could be something that unlocks that.
If he was the ball handler, you mean?
Yes.
Oh, well, that's I haven't even
Şengün.
Mentally haven't gotten there yet. I don't I'm not going to go there, but that is like a whole, to me, that's like level, like that is crazy though. That to me, that's a crazy upside to pick and roll.
The pushback's going to be like, on defense, you can't run blah, blah, blah. And we can have that. I mean, we'll have that discussion down the line. Damn, my shoulder's just popping out. We'll have that discussion down the line.
He did one fake Cam Whitmore air dunk and pop the shoulder. But anyways, but for the way they're guarding that, like that Flamingo, he has said that he worked on the Jokic. I don't even know have you seen a Jokic shot from him? I don't know what he's referring to when he says the Jokic shot. Because he said that in the media day. Alp during media day, he said that he's gotten really good at his Flamingo. He got much better at it. And then he said he's been working on a Jokic shot.
I don't know what he means. My guess would be maybe like the high arcer, like Jokic like brings it back and like sends like a high arcer.
So I'm curious to see that. But to me, that mid-range game for him is the natural progression. I still believe he is on the Pau Gasol arc of player as far as just skill set. And Pau Gasol had a mean pull-up. And then you get into the big-on-big pick and rolls, him and Jabari, him and some of the other players. Yeah, it's to me it's really really exciting. I did want to ask you with some of the comments from media. I know we didn't get to talk about it real quick. What did you take anything from the way? Because I've heard people kind of talk about this. Jalen and Şengün answered both their respective questions about their extensions, whereas Jalen was more like, "I'm not thinking about that right now. I'm just trying to hoop this year and focus on winning." Whereas Şengün said relatively the same thing, but said we are talking about it. I want to get an extension done. I feel like we're going to get an extension done. Do you take anything from that, or is just nothing?
So what I take information from specifically on that topic is Jonathan Fagan reporting on LP, but Jonathan Fagan not reporting on Jalen. That to me indicates that, and then when you match that up to their comments, right? So Şengün basically saying like, yeah, I want to stay, I want to get it done, we're talking, and Jalen kind of just, avoiding the question. When you match their responses up to the fact that Fagan is reporting that the Rockets might get one done with Şengün before the season starts, and he has not said anything about Jalen Green, to me that says exactly what that is, right? That it sounds like they're in talks with Şengün, they want to lock it up, and it sounds like they are not in any type of like substantive close type of negotiations with Jalen. And I mean, that sounds about right? Like, I mean, I think that matches, right? I think Şengün has proven that he probably deserves some type of extension. And I think Jalen, any prudent NBA front office would still want to see what's going to happen this season with Jalen. Because here's the thing, this is a guess. My guess is that Şengün is willing to negotiate and maybe take less than the max.
I was just about to say that. Yep.
There you go. Yeah, maybe Şengün's willing to take less than the max, and he was a 16th pick, so I think his maximum salary is lower. Like he's eligible for less than Jalen is. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think that's the case. And I bet Jalen is like, no, I want the max. So Jalen's probably like, if y'all aren't willing to offer me the max, then cool, let's table it. I'll come out and get that max
after the season. Yeah, and I 100% to me that even if I was Jalen's agent, that's the approach out. He's the number 2 pick. You could say, obviously we've said a lot. Fans know Jalen's ups and downs. At the end of the day, compared to his class, yeah, if I was his agent, I'm fighting for a max. Like I want the max. Like I want the max deal. He's had the high highs that would garner that. To me, the what's the kid in Orlando? Oh Lord, I'm blanking on it. Franz Wagner. That Franz Wagner deal just kind of destroyed the market, in my opinion. So I would do the same thing. So that is going to be interesting to watch. So you think that there is a world where they actually get a deal done with Şengün before, what is it, October 31st or October something is the 21st. Deadline? 21st. I think. You think there's a world where they'll get a deal done?
I do. And I think that Jonathan Fagan reporting that is your biggest tell. Jonathan Fagan is not going to go out and do that without a blessing to do that.
That's crazy.
And so I think that's I mean, look, that's just me putting pieces together. So take it or leave it. But I think that the team wants that information out there. And I think that they would want that information out there. Now, look, maybe they put that information out there as positioning to be like, hey, we tried, didn't happen. I don't know. But I feel like they would otherwise stay silent on it if they didn't think, there was a chance that something happens.
Yeah. And I think that you look at the free agency market, it just makes sense to me for them to get a deal done early. If they can save on it, that'd be a blessing for the Rockets, because to me in the NBA, to build a contender, you need to get lucky on one of your contracts. And whether it's Steph Curry getting injured or something like that, where you get a real high value on a really good player for some unforeseen circumstances, if they can get save a couple $1 million on Şengün, that would be great. All right, so we have coming up.
If they do, then shout out to Şengün if they do
for sure
being open to it and wanting to be here. That would be really cool. It's always cool when and this is what's so cool about the Astros, by the way, but it's always cool when you draft a player and they live up to the hype and you want to keep them and they want to stay. That's always cool. Now the coolest part is when they stay and then y'all go on and win for real.
Yep. And
we have yet to do that, but yeah, it would be cool.
Yep. So we got the preseason coming up. I think the Rockets play 4 games this preseason. Last preseason, I think we went 4-1 or 3-1. I know we only lost 1 game during that stretch. We did kind of see the tone get set I think one of the things I saw apparent off rip from last preseason was the defense was different. Offense was kind of ugly, and that kind of stayed the same way for most part of the season. What are you expecting to see from the team in this preseason that we might have not seen last year that you think is going to carry on into the regular season?
So what do I think we're going to see? I'm trying to find out, by the way. So the games, the season starts Tuesday, October 22nd. So that means that the Rockets have four
Yeah, I think
preseason
they
games.
yeah.
Jazz, Thunder, first two on the road. Still getting this together, but Monday against the Jazz. I'm hoping to have that on Rockets Watch, by the way, if you guys want to come tune in and stream that. And then it's Pelicans and Spurs at home. So what do I think they're going to do that they didn't do last season that will translate to the regular season?
Or just something that you're looking for that you would want to see in this new year that we have now.
So I think we're going to be talking about this all season. Ime Udoka's offense. That's what I want to see. That is what's going to take this team to the next level, right? Last season, they had a top 10 defense. They've proven they can do that. They add Steven Adams. They add Tari Eason after he missed 60 games last season. They get Amen Thompson starting the season off fully healthy, right? He had the ankle sprain, and he really wasn't healthy for a while. It took him a while. And they also get Jock Landale. We kind of sleep on that. He might not play because of Steven Adams, which, by the way, I just want to be clear. I'm not banking on Steven Adams being fully healthy. I think his comments have been he's good to go, but I will believe it when I see it. I'm a little skeptical of a 30-year-old at his size with serious knee injury just coming and being good to go. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a Nene situation where he doesn't play back-to-backs or something like that.
Stone during the media day said that he's going to be ramped up, so he's not just it's going to be one of those deals. Yeah, no back to back.
And I think that's smart. And Jock Landale's useful for that because Jock Landale also had his injury, and he talked about this. I think in media day. I think he said he just physically wasn't on the same page as everyone else because of his injury, and it took him a while to get back. So if Jock Landale, I'm just saying we get these guys back healthy. And last season they were all missing for certain degrees, right? So they can play defense. We know that. Offense is the separator. Last season they ran a safe offense, right? They ran the equivalent of a football team running the ball, controlling the clock type offense, right? And they should have. I'm glad that they did because they needed to. People wanted them to play fast, but I think you saw they won those 9 games in a row, and then they lost 5 or 6 in a row because that's the ups and downs of just playing volatile and fast. When you play safe, you keep the turnovers low, you limit possessions so that you limit the other team's ability to take advantage of your mistakes, and you can stay in control of the game. So that's how they played, right? It was post out, P up, it was run the pick and roll, it was Fred, right?
Yeah.
It was Fred. Now this season, which you've kind of alluded to, they got to get moving off the ball. I think that's their best. They have so many athletes. They have some high IQ players. They have guys who can cut. They have guys who can dunk and finish above the rim. They have one of the best post-up scorers in the league. They have a guy who draws a double team, Alperen Şengün. So when we talk about spacing and shooting and all this stuff and can you post up Şengün and then rely on Jalen to shoot if Jalen's only a 33, 34% three-point shooter, that's why you move, right? If you double team LP, space is open. The offense has to be designed to take advantage of that space. If they don't double team LP, you get a free pass to a bucket, right? There are just so many different options. And then now with Reed Shepherd in the mix, we'll see if he actually plays. I'm skeptical to see if Udoka plays him out the gate because we know he loves him some Aaron Holiday.
Yeah.
But if Ime Udoka is ready to open that playbook up, there's so much potential. You have guys who can create and pass with Şengün and Amen Thompson. You have Jalen Green, who to me remains the biggest, what's going to happen. If he's the guy we saw in March, then this team is going to win a lot of games. If he's the guy that we saw in January, in February or whatever, December and January, then I don't know what's going to happen. So that's the answer. What do they do on offense? Yeah. What is their philosophy on offense?
I think that's pretty much similar. I'm going to go a little more granular with it. I'd like to see what Jalen looks like as the primary ball handler full time with all
point guard.
Yeah, pretty much what he was when that stretch was happening because he was Fred played a lot of off ball, and I think in that scenario, he was running a lot of good actions with Jock Landale. I want to see whether he can run the full offense. And the difference with this now being that once you get Shangun back in the mix, and he has to learn how to pace, when to dish the ball off, and when to look for his shot. And I think that's one of the underrated part of being a ball handler, is knowing when to water your plants. That's what I call, like, knowing when to get the guys going. Because to me, young guards, one of the things that they suffer from is kind of pacing that. Like, you're going to eat. And then all of a sudden, when you're in trouble, that's the only time you give it up to your guys. So can he learn that skill set? Does he know when to bend the defense? I want to see that. And I think early on, I would love to see the Rockets really push that, because there's no more time to, like, oh, well, in the future or potential. Like, bro, it's now. If they're gonna give this dude a bag, like, you got to see, can he run this team? Because at the end of the day, the guys that are getting paid in the league, the max contracts that aren't wings, if you're a guard, it's damn sure ain't no, like, Klay Thompson type of off-ball screening guard. You're going to be the on-ball guy. Like, you're going to be on-ball more than anybody else. So I need to see, especially in the preseason, when Jalen is on rep, we know Fred VanVleet can do it. Get Jalen the ball, and then let's see how his decision making. Pass when you're supposed to pass. Attack when you're supposed to attack. All that.
Let me ask you this. So are we definitively saying, remember, you've heard this phrase a lot, development is not linear, right?
Correct.
He doesn't need to have a third year leap. But are you definitively saying, like, fourth year leap, we need it? Has to happen.
Well, I guess you have to define what a leap is. To me, like,
Yes.
for him, consistency is a leap. Okay. And to me, the lack of consistency on a night-to-night basis, on not even being like a superstar level player, but just being like a average, regular two guard. Because if he was an average, regular two guard on a night-to-night, then has those spikes where he's like superstar, I could keep rocking with that down the line. The problem with the Jalen Green discourse is the lows. And the erratic nature of his play throughout the season. And that really scares. If I was a team owner or a GM or a coach, that would scare me. One thing about being a professional at any job, even our jobs, bro, when people pay you to do something, they expect you to do that job the same way. Like, if we expect you to have this report ready, it's going to be ready, and there's not going to be errors and stuff in it. So even for an athlete, it's the same thing. You get paid.
The baseline has to be high or good enough, right? And
the baseline has to be, it has to meet the standard. And then while you're getting a bigger bag than the other guys, what you flash, like you're dropping 30 on a night you need to carry the team. So for him, consistency. But at the same time, I think Udoka did a great job progressively drawing that out of him. I'd like to see it culminate in everything being on the table this season for him offensively. Give him those reps. I'd love to see him and Fred VanVleet flip-flop responsibilities, where he's more the Fred role was last year without P, where that two-man game is the bread and butter. The only problem with that they risk running is that he doesn't see the full court. He doesn't court map very well. I don't know what his court mapping looks like. Fred's wasn't the most elitist, but he was decent. But I'd like to see that happen. And then, to me, that answered the questions for the Reed Shepherd thing, because I know Reed Shepherd has the full map in his mind. So it's going to be interesting to see that offensive dynamic. I think that's going to be important. I think, secondly, the twos. I am curious to see how Reed plays with the twos in preseason. Like, what is he? Who is he adjacent to? Who's running a two guard with him? Is he going to be the primary ball handler? Is he an off guard? Is he, like, to me, that's going to really clue me in also on how Udoka is thinking about this team.
It's interesting you mentioned the twos. By the way, I've had this thought in my head. There hasn't been a moment in the conversation to insert it, so I'll just blurt it out before I forget. Okay. The NOAA tracking system and the data and all that kind of stuff, if Shangun really wants to get nerdy and get in the lab, that could help him hopefully figure out that shot, right? Because he does have the touch. It does look good, right? Oftentimes he shoots it and I'm like, oh yeah, that looks good. And then it just doesn't go in. Airball. So if he could, I personally think, just from watching him on TV, I feel like he needs to stop jumping. I feel like he needs to be a flat-footed shooter because he's strong. And a lot of times he misses long. If I was working with him, that's like, I would start there, but I'm just watching on TV. But hopefully the NOAA system can help him figure that out. So that's one little underrated kind of nugget that I'd be interested to see if that develops. But You mentioned the twos. Tillman Fertitta, I don't know when it was. Was it a media day or was it
Media.
before? I can't remember.
No, it was the opening of the training facility.
The facility. That's it.
Yeah,
He said we have the deepest team in the league, right?
cap. But
Which
yeah,
I thought
go
was
ahead.
an interesting comment. I think there are levels to being deep, right?
Facts.
And I think that we are the type of deep that is potentially, I don't want to say dangerous, that's the wrong word, but maybe deceiving, because we have a bunch of guys that like are kind of on the same level. And the type of depth that is scary is when you have like super high end depth and then you have like really good depth behind that to supplement that depth. We have like a lot of competitive depth. So it's like guys who could knock each other out and kind of like take each other's spots, right? That being said, when you mention the twos, that's going to be one of the, like, I have no idea what's going to happen. And I have no idea how to predict what's going to happen, because you got guys currently, if we started the season today, based on what we think the starting lineup would be, you got numerous guys on that bench that could probably start. Amen Thompson, Tari Eason, Reed Shepard. He's a rookie. I'm not going to go there with him yet, but who knows? Maybe. Cam Whitmore. Obviously, he's got things to improve in his game and his IQ and processing and all that. But so that's like
Steven
Steven Adams.
Adams. Yeah.
You could argue Steven Adams could start. So it's like, it's really interesting. I'm really interested to see how they dole all that out, how they handle all of that. Because at some point you got to think, like, at the very, very least, I'll tell you what Rockets fans will already be talking about. Dylan Brooks, right? They're going to be like, man, Dylan Brooks has to sit. Amen or Tari has to start, or Cam Whitmore. You're going to hear probably those three names, I bet. So that's another thing. Like, in the preseason, I will be looking to see how that plays itself out, because I think the Rockets are at a point where they have talent, right? And hopefully these guys have gotten a year. I made a video talking about this on Twitter. They're a year older. They are a year more mature, both mentally and physically. And they have Alperen Şengün, who had a near all-star season. And then they have Jalen Green, who we'll see how he plays. But in March, he showed us that he has that real potential. And then behind that, they've got some, like, their role players all of a sudden become some of the most elite role players in the NBA, I think, right? Let's say Amen Thompson. That's an elite role player. Let's say Steven Adams. That's an elite role player. Let's say Fred VanVleet. It might be disrespectful to call him a role player, but he is a very high-functioning elite role player, potentially, in this team, depending on how these guys pan out. Even Dylan Brooks, who has his CTE moments, still a pretty damn good role player, right? And they're all vets too. Tari Eason, very good role player, right? Jabari Smith, like, we got some really good role players. And so if they have that top-end talent break out, like, I don't know. It just feels like there's a ton of potential.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think what is missing from this team, the depth is one thing. Like, being a team that has a lot of players, I think it's appropriate for a young team that's trying to be up and coming. You have to have this level of depth. To me, this is what made OKC so kind of really, really good. What makes a team like that great is the separation at the top level of the superstar players. And that's what, to me, is going to be the difference maker between them being a frisky Orlando type team that's like, yeah, we're top whatever in defense, a decent offense, a playoff scrapper, which to me would be a win for us. And that next level, I'm hoping that this year, with the depth, that one of these guys steps out ahead of the pack and, like, I'm that guy. Because every team, I mean, at the end of the day, the NBA is all about play. Hell, sports is about players. Like, you got to have the guys that can carry you there. And like you, I think that, we are a deep team, but there's levels. I think, like the Celtics, their depth is much more different than ours is. Like I said, they have multiple all NBA level players on one team. And then their second team are guys that could probably make up a starting five for a 43 win team. So it's gonna, we have our word cut out for us. I think the preseason will be a great barometer of seeing what Ime wants to do. It does lead me to this question. Right now, the Rockets are slated to be a 43.5 wins as the over under for them, with the line tilting towards them winning over that. Do you think that's appropriate, 43 and a half wins for the Rockets, or are you matching over or under on that?
Yeah, by the way, let us know in the comments what you think, so that we can have that discussion. I'm going over. My prediction is 48 wins.
Oh, okay.
I know, right? People were like, oh, 48. But you look at it, the Orlando Magic last season had 47. The Cleveland Cavaliers, I think, had 48. Let me confirm that for you. Yes, they did. The Pacers had 47 last season. The Kings weren't that good. They had 46. The Pelicans were
Okay.
injured, and I don't think they were really that good. They had 49, right? Why not? Why not the Rockets? I think 48 wins. And that's assuming they don't get hurt, of course. That's the unpredictable thing, right? The wrong person gets hurt. Fred gets hurt. Like, actually, look, the wrong person gets hurt, that could change. I think, interestingly enough, I might be changing my mind on this in real time, but I
Okay.
think if Fred gets hurt, this team might be able to withstand that. Whereas last season's team, I don't think had any chance. Um,
You think
maybe
so?
that's being, maybe. When I say withstand it, I mean like they could hold water until he comes back. Um, Not that they
I
like,
that would probably require some Herculean effort from one of our players or aggregate of people just stepping up little by little to do other stuff.
I think you would get that though. I think that depth in a scenario like that, the depth starts to show. I think Reed helps you stop some of that bleeding because Aaron Holiday is not your only point guard on the roster anymore. And I'm not trying to put heavy expectations on Reed. I just think he could step up in like a limited role if he had to, at the very least. But then, like I said, I mean, Amen, Tari Eason, Jabari, Cam Whitmore, like you got some players. And at the very least, you'd be a really good defensive team. And you might struggle on offense and have to figure that out. But that being said, 48 wins. The West is going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be really hard to stick around in the West. But I think that they are 48 wins good. They went 41-41 last season. Tari Eason missed 60 games. Amen Thompson missed a bunch of games. They didn't have a backup center pretty much the whole season. Jeff
Yeah,
Green was their backup center, by the way.
I remember that.
And that is no longer the case. Speaking of vets, by the way, Jeff Green's still on the team. So, I
Yep.
mean, Steven Adams, Jeff Green, Fred VanVleet, that's a legit stable of vets for your locker room. And then you add, Cam Whitmore, like he got plugged in around January-ish, I think, December, January, started getting some playing time. And he was kind of a secret weapon, right? Before him, we were playing Jay Sean Tate. But like now you have Cam Whitmore who has the trust to at least, if someone gets hurt, step up and play. There's just multiple pieces where I think, and Şengün got hurt for a while. Fred missed like 7 or 8 games. By the way, underrated point, Fred VanVleet had his most injury-free season last year, I think, of his
That was crazy.
career, right? If not his
Crazy.
career, it was the second most. He played the most games he's played in a long time. So that
I
was an
have a
underrated.
theory about that real quick. His first time, he's actually well, not the first time. Fred has not played with a big man, a real big man, like most of his career. In
Mhm.
Toronto, you guys know their philosophy was like hybrid wings that, and so a little guard trying to play in that style of offense was just he had to work too hard for everything. In Houston here, he had screeners, and I look back at this when we first got him. Some of his best years, even towards the tail end of his time in Toronto, if you split up when they got the dude from San Antonio, I'm forgetting his name right now, the center, when they
Jakob
traded for
Poeltl.
him, Pirtle. Fred is an efficient god when he has a true like big that can screen for him. As we know, he
Yeah.
can't create his own separation.
He's
So
a small guy. He needs
he's
a
a
big
small
to
dude.
clear
Yeah.
space.
So I think the Rockets, Şengün, Londale towards the end of the season, and Fred not really when Şengün went down, he kind of went off ball. I think that's a big part of it. But not for sure.
That's
Definitely.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Definitely.
look, he had his most efficient season ever as a starting point guard. Every stat I'm about to give you is him starting because he didn't start until his like 4th year full time starter. Least assists per game for his career as a starter, most blocks per game, which they really should have been steals. Um, Let me see, most assists per game, most efficient season of his career, TS percentage. As a full-time starter, 73 games last season. Before that, the most he's ever played was 76. His second season in the league, 20 when he was only playing 20 minutes per game,
Yep. Backup.
76 games. He started 0 games that season. So this season this last season, he started 73 playing 37 minutes a game. He also had the least amount of field goal attempts of his career as a starter last season. So really interesting from Fred. But yeah, so I mean, there's just a lot. It's just a really interesting team. It's like a very mid-level talent team with potential for a couple guys to hit, mainly Alp and Jalen, to take them to that next level. Let me ask you this. Well, by the way, you tell me, what do you think? Over, under?
Yeah, over. I think yeah, I'm at 45, 46 wins.
Okay.
I think that Vegas tilting towards the over is also telling because I think it's a good sign. It shows that, and all the commentary on the Rockets, I think around the NBA landscape has been positive. I think people see that something is different. They are a better team this year. But yeah, what were you gonna ask?
Thank God for Ime Udoka, man. My God.
I know for sure.
So what do you think is the X factor for the season? Like if you had to pick something to be the X factor to take this from just like a mid-season to like a very like, oh, this is a surprising successful season. What is that X factor?
It's gonna sound redundant, but it's Jalen Green.
Jalen.
It's
Yeah.
Jalen Green. Jalen Green, for better or worse. I think the fact that if you had a pie graph of usage, opportunities, touches, the guy taking the most usage, opportunity, and touches can't be one of your worst starters. And I think by that logic, if he is just average, even if he was average last year, we'd be in the playoffs for the whole
Yeah.
year. Jalen just being a good player in the NBA, and I feel like this is the year. If everybody else came back the exact same way they were last year, the Rockets are going to make the playoffs because he takes the most threes. He has the ball in his hand a lot. He gets to make a lot of decisions on possessions. And like I said, if that guy is not functioning to their best efficiency or the best level, it really does hurt the team. So Jalen is the X factor. Like it's going to be sink or swim because I feel like the Rockets are going to give him the opportunities to do the same thing over again and prove whether he is going to be the guy long term or do they need to start looking somewhere else. So if Jalen Green doesn't troll this year, he's going to be the Rockets going to be okay. What is yours?
I think that's a good answer. So I'm going to go a little bit different just to give a different look on it. Other acceptable answers would be Amen Thompson and Tari Eason. I'm going to say Reed Shepard. And again, I don't want to put undue, unreasonably heavy expectations on the kid. But if he does have that like star component in him, and if it shines through, like I said, right, we have a lot of high functioning role player level players. But if he hits that like star talent next to Şengün, even if Jalen can't, but Reed can, because of his ability to shoot, because he would be on the ball, because you said, like you said, he court maps, and because of the way that he would be running an offense, like I think that could take you from this kind of like middling, average, mediocre offense to like, oh, there's something special there. I'm still skeptical about whether he's going to play right away. I don't think he will, just because the team's deep. I feel like Udoka is going to reward the guys who've been here, and kind of make Reed, as a rookie, like wait his turn, so to speak. But if he does get that chance, I think he's got the type of game that if it flashes, like if he flashes some of the stuff we saw in Summer League, which I understand, Summer League, regular season is totally different, right? Night and day. I get it. But if he flashes some of that stuff, you got a guard who can shoot and who can light it up from three, which is a big need of the Rockets, by the way. Shooting is one of their biggest weaknesses. You got a dude who can navigate the pick and roll, probably better than anyone on the team, potentially. Yeah. Like Fred can navigate the pick and roll, but even though he hits the midi, he didn't do it enough, and it just wasn't like a thing that he would hit you with over and over and over to kill you, to make a defense have to adjust and step up and then discombobulate a defense. Reed can do that. And then he finishes at the rim. He can get above the rim. That was Fred's big thing, right? He can't finish at the rim. Reed can get above the rim and finish with athleticism. So there's a potential for a dynamic two-man game with him and Şengün, and then for other guys to get open. You could already imagine the high IQ of Reed and Amen is just going to click like that. It has to.
Yeah.
So that's my X factor. If Reed, the Rockets were playing with house money when they got that number 3 pick. Like we didn't think we were going to get that number 3 pick. So if you sprinkle a little Reed Shepard on top of what they already have, and it hits, could be a big deal.
No, I haven't even brought myself to get there yet because I'm assuming like Coach Udoka is just gonna like make him earn every minute, but there's a world where somebody gets hurt and it just takes opportunity. Honestly, the reason I don't have him as like the rookie year, I don't think he's gonna have the opportunity to do it. I think if we were the 2022 Rockets and we drafted Reed Shepard, oh yeah, dude's probably averaging like 19 and like 7. But just off of the fact that there's so many players on his team, I think over time he's going to have to earn the trust of Coach Udoka on the defensive end. Biggest criticism of Reed Shepard for me is his defense, and I think he can improve and he can mitigate a lot of that stuff just by experience, getting stronger. I think Fred VanVleet is a great vet for him. I see a lot of the videos and pictures of them. Fred is constantly talking to him, telling him stuff, and Reed has the brain to do it and the effort. So it's really just left for him to do it. That's at the end of the day. That's it. If he hits, like you said, if he actually is an impact player, it's opens up a new dimension of our team that I haven't really wanted to go to because I don't want to get my heart broke. But
Right.
but but
Hey, but let me say this.
go ahead.
When it comes to Udoka, you're right, and I agree. But he also is a guy that goes off merit and meritocracy, and he loves IQ. And from those videos we've seen in practice and training camp, it looks like Reed is showing out. And, and I would have to imagine that Udoka immediately understands his level of basketball IQ. So those could be things that help him, fight that rookie curve with the coach. But we'll see.
No, I mean he's been getting a lot of reps. Like for a rookie, they're putting him in the action and allowing him to have a lot of autonomy that I didn't particularly see from Amen and Cam when they first came here as rookies. So that speaks to Reed's kind of his mind and his ability to kind of adapt to the game. At the end of the day, it's the NBA, the athletes. It's going to be like that defense. Is going to be. I think that's going to be a sticking point for Udoka. I just want to see. Hopefully, they put out lineups that protect Reed, where he doesn't have to be on an island a lot. I think they're going to be smart with the way they play him. And then I think if you can just put him to start in the less ball dominant role, which is what I assume is going to happen. If he shines there, I think you kind of give him rewards by, okay, let's run some pick and rolls with him and let's do some things. So that's going to be an exciting storyline to watch for the Rockets. With that said, bro, we have here now at being at the cusp of the season. I think this might be, I say this every year, this might be the most exciting I've been. I would say last year was pretty excited to start the season, but there's a different era right now about the Rockets to start this year, man. I just feel like we're going to have a great season, and it kicks off on Monday against the Utah Jazz. What do you think, just real quick, that game, what do you think that's going to look like, just from a lineup standpoint? What do you expect Udoka to, are the starters playing?
I expect the same. Unless somebody's hurt and they're being conservative, holding them out, I expect the same starting lineup as last season. Okay. I expect no Steven Adams. I'm just guessing here. Okay. I feel like they'll save him just because if they're ramping him up, that's what I would think that they would do. I think we get some Reed Shepherd. But I think they come out. I think they're going to want to send a message and not to the league, but I think Udoka wants to send a message to his own team of hey, season starts, we're back, we show up from day one and we go out and take care of business. That's our identity, So I expect them to come ready to play, no bullshit, you know what I mean? And that's what I would want to see. I just have a good gut feeling about this season. In the past, I was really worried. In the past, I was looking at what the front office was doing, and I was I just don't know if this all works. But now I've kind of put all that aside because the players are complementary. Whether they intended to get here this way or not, it really, I guess, doesn't matter. The players are complementary. You can see how their skills fit with one another, right? You got Jabari, the stretch shooting big who hustles. You got Şengün, the potentially star offensive big who can score and create. You got Fred VanVleet, steady vet who handles the ball, limits turnovers, shoots. You got Jalen, potential star shooting guard. Dylan Brooks, classic, small forward wing. You got Amen, the Swiss Army knife who can do it all. You got Tari Eason, kind of the same thing in some ways. Cam Whitmore, another potential scorer. There's just they just all Reed Shepherd, ball handler, score. They just seem to all have their role. So it just, I don't know. It feels good. I'll say this: we deserve this as a fan base.
For sure.
You and I, we've been watching this team from the Harden blow up year. I mean, since before that, but we have stuck through the Harden blow up year. We stuck through. I want to remind folks. Look at what this roster has right now. 3 years ago, we were sold on KPJ and Christian Wood. Okay. We were trying to convince ourselves that KPJ and Christian Wood were going to lead this team somewhere. All right. So to stick through all of that, to stick through Daniel Tice, that whole thing, and then to get here, we deserve it. I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good year for the Rockets.
Facts, big facts. I think the preseason, I'm trying to remember if Ime is the one that he plays a lot of guys during the preseason. I'm trying to remember from last year. I really don't remember. I do know their
I think
schedule
he
is
did.
weird.
Remember, Tari got hurt and came back. Even though he was
I
hurt.
think he plays. I think they play. They have a weird schedule, and he did talk about they have 2 games like in 3 nights. Then they get like 5 days off, and like 2 games in 3 nights again. So I think for one of those sets of games, he's going to play a lot of vets. Like the team is going to play a lot. What is it? What is it like?
It goes Monday, Wednesday, October 7th, October 9th.
Right.
And then they're off till the next week, and it goes Tuesday, Thursday, October 15th.
Right. So
October
it's like
17th.
a week apart of games. So if to the way I would do it, I probably do more training camp and younger guys in the first 2 sets, and then last 2 sets of games, really try to play a lot of my starters just to get them the momentum. I know different coaches have different philosophies on preseason, and some coaches, they want to get the team hitting the ground running. I think we can't afford. We're not good enough to just chill and just rest everybody and say we're going to wait till game 1. So I think we need to get some stuff working, get some offensive sets going, answer some questions. So that's probably what I expect to see. But with that said, man, appreciate you, bro. We will be back to our regular scheduled programming with the Rockets talk since the season is back. We don't have to make up any topics. Oh, Jalen Green's hairstyle for Alperen Sengun's new shoe, or what do you think about, like, bro? I hate the summer, man. It's just like, man, like, bro, I'm an artist, man. I have to be inspired to talk about basketball. I can't just make
I
up
unplugged this summer. Like, I didn't pay attention to shit. I was just like, I'm not even gonna look at it. I didn't even watch Media Day. Like, I watched some things, but I like in the past I was like, yo, let's go watch all the Media Day. This time I was like, nah, man, I'm ready.
Yeah,
they're gonna give us something to cheer about.
Let's go. So if you're new to the channel, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Keep rocking with the Rockets Talk podcast, and we're gonna keep dropping that